today I'm going to be batch making some A6 UK and Euro size, possibly Australia, I think, I'm not quite sure, but there you go, or A2 for US size cards, Halloween cards obviously. Now normally when I make cards I like to do top fold, but just to vary it a little for me, I'm also going to do some side fold, some traditional, I want to say bifold, but they're not, the side fold cards. Again, in the same size. Now, obviously, here in the UK, we use A4 sized paper, which is slightly different to the US 8.5 by 11. So all I've done to create the card is literally cut the card down the middle and fold it. The other way, I've cut it that way and then folded it that way, so it goes that way. So if you're using 8.5 by 11, just do what the nearest equivalent is for you. And I've got some white cardstock which I've cut down, just a couple of pieces, just to show you that I've cut it just slightly shy of the same size. So there's a little bit of a black border going to be showing all the way around the card. So that is pretty much the size of the card. Now I've done a couple of sheets, so I'm going to be making 8 cards today. So 4 side fold, 4 top fold. I've used black cardstock, but I've also used a kind of shiny metallic midnight blue, beautiful cardstock, which I've had in my stash for so long the label fell off. But I believe it came from a company here in the UK called Lime Tree Crafts. So they may still have this. I don't know whether this stuff is still made. I believe it's made by a company called Antalis, and they also do gold, which I also do have. Haha. But that metallic midnight blue is just beautiful, but is like rocking horse doodah. It's so difficult and so hard to get your hands on it, which is probably why I've been holding on to it in my stash for so long. Just didn't want to use it up. But hey ho, you've just got to occasionally. You can't just keep sitting on your stock all the time. You have to use some of it up, he says. Anyway, so those are the cards that I'm going to be using. So those are the base cards. Like I said, I'm going to create some Halloween cards. And I've cut just a couple of sheets of paper. I only need 8 of these, this size. And I've just cut them about 1/8 of an inch, or about 2 to 4 millimeters. 2 millimeters all the way around, so 4 millimeters short. Just so I've got that even border all the way around on that cardstock. So, to get started, I'm going to create some backgrounds just using some Distress Oxides. I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm literally only going to just spritz. So I've pulled out some Halloweeny colours, so I've got Wilted Violet, Spiced Marmalade, and of course Twisted Citron, and just for good measure I've got Vintage Photo. But I've also just pulled out a bottle of my Vintage Photo Distress Stain, because I want to do a little bit of splattering on the background when I'm done. But give them a shake. And then I'm just going to start layering those oxides around the paper. I don't even think I've even used these yet. I've still got the the cellophane on. Oh dear. Where's my skizzers? There they are. How have I not opened these yet? I thought I'd opened every single one of them, but obviously I haven't, so I do apologise. Just do a quick snip. I tell you what, let me get all these open without stabbing myself in the hand, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the cellophane off those now, but can you believe it? I actually did stab myself in the finger, look. Hold on. Anyway, that makes it authentic, doesn't it? Right, so next, that was the Wilted Violet, so this is going to be the Spiced Marmalade. And then just bring back that wilted violet just to go a little bit over the top, and then the twisted citron. So we're starting to get a bit of a fusion in colours now. So I'm just going to keep on just building, going over the top. I don't mind if the paper starts to buckle. This is just grabbing a cloth. Just build those colours up. And I think I'm going to let that dry, just give it a little bit of encouragement. Then when that's done, I'm going to do exactly the same to these pieces. So when they're all dry, I'll be right back. Which may take a few minutes. Okay, so the backgrounds that I've created have pretty much dried. Now they're taking an absolute age to dry. I picked that one up and got a finger mark right there in the middle because it's just still not dry for some reason, taking forever. Even with the heat gun, they're still a little bit tacky, so I'm going to have to leave them for a little while longer before I can do anything else really major to them. All I'm going to do in the next step is pretty much just go around the edges a little bit with some vintage photo, but instead of using Distress Oxide, I'm going to use the archival, because the way that the patterns worked on these, it's kind of turned into a little bit of almost like a galaxy kind of thing. Not very controlled doing it that way. If I'd have done it with the normal blending foams and gone and put in the colours, I would have had a lot more control over where the colours went and how they turned out. But that's not necessarily how we like it sometimes. That randomness, that kind of chance chaos can look really good sometimes, but if you're feeling a bit OCD and want a little bit more control with the way that it's going to turn out, then I suggest don't use the oxide sprays, just use the oxide inks, or even just use the normal distressings. You may get more of a controlled effect if that's what you want or that's what you like. Anyway, so I'm going to see if I can try and persuade these to dry a little bit more. I've not added any water anywhere to these, so I don't know why they're just taking forever to dry. Be back when they're done. Okay, so I think they're just about dry now. It's taken, like I said, an absolute age, but just in case, I'm just going to grab a little bit of a talc or talcum powder, and I'm just going to dust over the top. Now, I've got baby powder in this, so it smells glorious, but that's just literally just to take away any kind of moisture that was remaining on the top, and it also will remove any static. Smell baby powder. Okay, so next step, I'm going to bring in my stamp press. I'm going to just drop that down because I'm going to do some stamping. So I've got Tim Holt Cadaverous, and I'm going to use this fantastic Skelly Bob. So I'm going to just lay him down on there and then just take that off for a second. and I've dusted off my Versamark. I know it looks grotty, it really is grotty. And I've got some clear embossing powder. So again, brand new, haven't used it yet. When I moved, I donated my collection of coloured embossing powders to my mum, because I didn't really use them very often. And then of course the minute you do that, yeah, exactly, you find a use. So not wanting to take them back off her, I went out and bought some more. On a recent trip to Art from the Heart, so I got some white embossing powder. So I'm going to use my Versamark pad, just give that the once over, bring that back in. Now this is the reason why I went over with, yeah, it seems to have worked okay. I went over with the anti-static, or with the talcum powder, because like I said, it removes static, and as you can tell, I am going to do some embossing, some heat embossing. I think that's going to be okay. I'm hoping, it says, white embossing powder. If I can get the lid off, just drop some scratch paper. Come on. Oh, why is it? Oh, there we go. Try and get this before it dries. Or if I hadn't gone over with the talc, if there was any moisture on there, it would have stuck. Or if there's any static, see, there's still some. Don't mind a little. I don't want too much. So just tap it. Ha! Excellent. So I'll just put that back into the pot. And I probably went a little bit overboard on that. And then all I have to do now is just to grab my fingers . There we go. It's just starting to turn now. There we go. The whiteout looks cool, but I've also got some black, so I'm going to try it with the black too, but I like the whiteout effect. So I'm just going to have a bit of a tidy up and then I'll be right back. Okay, so let's go back over, try not to touch too much. Drop that back in. ink that back up again. And down. I'm just going to try one pass with this one. This time again, try the black. This is ultra fine, or supposed to be super fine. Super fine detail embossing powder. So we'll see. Try not to sneeze. It's warm today, I've got the windows open, so apologies if you can hear traffic noise outside. It's a very warm day today, I'm happy to say. I'll just get rid of a little bit of what I left on there. Don't think there's any there. And I know I could probably get a similar sort of impression by using black ink, but I don't get the shine, and it's the shine that I wanted on this one. There we go. So again, now, there you go. Can you see that shine on that embossing? You don't get that with ink. And again, I think the white is too white to show the shine, but you've got the same kind of nice feel to it as you have with those. Excellent. So I'm going to do another 2 of these exactly the same way. So I'll be right back. Okay, so those are the 2 black ones, obviously those are the 2 white ones. You can see for yourself how nicely they've turned out. Now the black embossing powder, now I don't know whether it's something to do with the additive in the powder itself, but it did react a little bit with the oxide, which is a bit weird. So I'm just wondering whether or not it's because the dye has actually gone into the card, leaving just the embossing powder on the top. But it's still nice and shiny and still get a great effect. So I'm going to do the same thing again now for the other 4, but this time I'm going to use the heart and the cadaver head. And I'm going to try and see if I can squeeze them both on, one above the other. If I can't, then I might just use a combination of maybe like the heart and the eye or something like that instead. We'll see. So because you've seen me do that, you don't want to sit and watch the entire thing again. So I'll crack on, do those, and then I'll join you when I've finished and dried all the embossing on the others. So I'll be right back. Crikey, that embossing powder is a messy business. There's a reason I don't do it very often. Okay, so I've got the white ones done. Can't really, well you can. The camera's kind of bleaching out the colour in this. It's actually more apparent, there's more detail in it than what the camera's actually picking up, but I still think I prefer the black ones to the white ones. But then again, I'm not really sure about, I actually quite like the white skeleton. But they're done. So they're all done. So all I have to do now is just to grab my archival ink, load up a sponge, and then I can start to go around and darken up and grunge up all the edges. Just like so. Just give them a little bit of grunge. Just like that. So now you've seen me do those couple. I've got this one and another 6 to do. So I shall finish those off real quick, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've gone round the edges, adding all that grunge and distress around. So now I'm ready for the next step. Okay, so for the next step, I'm just going to keep my archival ink, my vintage photo archival ink. Ooh, dropsy. To load a little bit up, and I've got the Tim Holtz Shatter stencil, which also, well, actually it's a mask, but also resembles a, if it was clean, it would. Let me just see if I can clean that up a little bit. It resembles more like a spider's web, so that's going to be just what I need for this. As soon as I've wet it, that's not a very good idea. So I'm just going to lay it over the top. Just about that, and then just very, very gently, I'm just going to rub and add a little bit of detail into that background. Just really, really gently. Just so there's a light tonal variation in the background. Just there. So I'm going to do that now to all of the others. So again, it's not going to be very interesting for you to sit and watch once you've seen me do it once. Or twice. So I'll get off and do those, and then I will be back once I've completed. Okay, so you can see all the marks now in the background of those card fronts. So I'm happy with that. So now I need to just add in some a little extra bit. So this is the new Curiosities sticker book from Tim Holtz, obviously Halloween stickers and sayings, and there's some cool ones. So I'm just going to just grab the pile, and I'm just going to go through and then just grab one and add it to each one. So that one there, it says here inside my heart. So I'm going to put that there. So that's that one done. So on this one, we've got the silence of the night. Stick that one down. I don't believe I'll ever feel any creepier on that one. So on this one, there's one called Saying Undertaker Somewhere. I saw it just a second ago. So So what sheet was it on? Funeral warehouse. Undertaker and embalmer. There you go, you see. Should we put that there? Like it. And then we've got an unfortunate ending. Let's put that there. These are fun to play with. So that one, funeral warehouse look. I like it. Something for everyone in a dark and haunted room. What else have we got? Yeah, Dorothy liked anything spooky. This Dorothy does. Okay, so we've got those. So we've added a little bit of verbiage. So let's just put these out. I don't want to go too much. There's quite a lot of detail in the background anyway with these ones, so I don't really want to go too mad with them. I kind of like them. So the other thing, I've got some vintage photo distress spray stain. So all I want to do now is just to add you can do all at once. Just to add that little touch. And I've made a mess. So I'll get those dry and then I'll be right back. So all of the splatters have now dried, as you can see, so nice little subtle bits in the background. So the next thing that I want to do is to create some little tears. Just some little tears in the paper, and then we're going to roll it back just like that. Pull them back and then grab a little bit of grunge, bit of dirt, and then I've got a fragment or some fragments of older kind of Tim Holtzy Halloweeny papers from a couple of years ago, and all I'm going to do is just grab some glue, put a little bit around the tear like that, and then just position that behind. Just to give the impression that there's something underneath. So there's one, so I'll leave that one upside down and do the next one. So I think I'll do this one. So just curl the paper over, or you can use a distresser. Just roll it, tuck it under, grab your piece of paper. So we'll get that one just saying Undertaker. A little bit of glue. It only really needs to be a hint. Doesn't need to be totally visible. And then dirty it up a little bit. Just add a little bit more dimension to it. And I'm going to do the same thing to each one, just adding little bits in different places. Just roll it back. I think I've got some tweezers here actually that I maybe can use just to curl that slightly. Yeah, fingers are probably stronger. You can always leave the distressing, the grunging up until it's actually dried a bit. Grab some paper. Should we do it that way? Or should we do it that way? Let's do it that way, the stripy way. The long ways. Beard glue. Just line it up. There we go. Like I said, it doesn't have to be totally perfect. And you can leave the distress in till later, once you've got everything dry, and then just add a few bits. I might actually just take a chunk out of this one, like that. Dirty it, grunge it, some glue, and then stick my piece in place over the top. Leave that to dry and move on to the next. So I'll carry on and I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so while they're finishing off drying, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of a charcoal pencil, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shading just around those blocks, and then I can just blend that in, just to add a little bit of pop towards the end. Just give it a little bit of a shade, and then I have got a pencil sharpener somewhere. Always the case. Put something down and it disappears. There we go. Just get a little bit of a point back to my pencil. Just adds a nice little bit of finishing. really go over the embossing, but you just diffuse it a little bit. Apparently I've got to be careful not to use my middle finger. There we go. And that just dirties them up a little bit more. Just keeps them a little bit in keeping. And now we can grab our card fronts, our card bases, a little bit of glue or double-sided tape, whichever is your preference. I like using this because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room, but it also dries completely clear. I can always faff with that a bit later. So I'm going to add all the fronts now onto my card bases. And then once I've done that, I'll be back. So that's it, they're now all stuck down. So I've got a little bit of place on the inside. I may add an insert later, but I think the back ones look a lot nicer. Not really fond of those, but they is what they is. I kind of like the white skelly bobs though, so not too bad. Even if I don't use those, I've still got 6 nice little Halloween cards to send out as little thank you notes, ready for the Halloween season to start in October. So I hope you've enjoyed that. It might have been a little bit long, but hey ho, it is what it is. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, for more videos like this one, because there will be a few more, then you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.